Okay, let's just dive right in. That little unexpected leak. When you cough or laugh, maybe just stand up. It
Yeah.
can feel like such a setback, can it? Especially for women over 60.
Hmm.
It's way more common than people think, but honestly, who really talks about it?
It really is a shared experience for so many. And, what's interesting is that our instincts, how we think we should manage it, can sometimes, well, lead us down the wrong path entirely.
Hmm.
So stick with us here, because by the end of this deep dive, we're going to unpack something really key about handling this, something you'll probably find incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. If you're someone who likes getting straight to the heart of important health info quickly and, thoroughly, then definitely hit that subscribe button for the Wisdom Dossiers channel.
Yeah, do that. Today, we're really zeroing in on 8 daily habits. Habits that doctors, medical professionals often warn senior women about, things to avoid to help prevent urinary incontinence. We're drawing on, well, the collective wisdom, the warnings from doctors, to try and shed some light on this subject. It can be delicate, we know, but we want to make it clear and manageable for you.
Okay, let's unpack that first one.
Yeah.
Something I think, well, a lot of us have probably done, thinking we're being efficient, maybe. Holding on when you feel that urge to go, just a few more minutes, I'm busy, that kind of thing.
It seems so practical in the moment, doesn't it? But the thing is, consistently ignoring those signals, it can actually sort of retrain your bladder, but like in a bad way.
How so?
Instead of responding properly when it's full, the bladder can start to, well, misfire.
Misfire? How exactly? What's happening?
Okay, think of your bladder like a muscle, right?
Yeah.
If you keep overstretching it by holding on too long, again and again, it can actually lose some of its stretchiness, its elasticity.
Well.
And over time, that can really interfere with the nerve signals. The ones telling your brain, hey, it's actually time to go. The result, well, ironically, more frequent urges and, those sudden, unexpected leaks we were trying to avoid in the first place.
So it's really less about, like, strong willpower and more about just respecting your body's natural rhythm.
Precisely. And it's not just the signals either. Regularly holding it in can also weaken the bladder walls themselves and the pelvic floor muscles around it, the ones that help control the flow. When those muscles get weaker, emptying completely gets harder.
And not emptying completely. That can cause other problems, can't it?
Oh, definitely. Leftover urine, residual urine, in the bladder creates a perfect environment for bacteria. It significantly bumps up the risk of urinary tract infections, UTIs.
Yeah.
So the real takeaway here is listen to your body, respond to those signals, promptly, but without panic. It's about working with your bladder, not fighting against it.
That's a really, really important point. Okay, number 2. This one feels completely backwards, I think.
Yeah.
The idea of drinking less water to prevent leaks. My first thought is always less in, less out right. Problem solved.
It's such a natural assumption. But unfortunately, it often does the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah. When you don't drink enough, you get dehydrated and your urine becomes much more concentrated.
Okay.
And this concentrated urine is also more acidic. That acid can be quite irritating to the lining of your bladder.
Irritating. Like, how does it make you feel like you have to go more?
Exactly that. Think of it like maybe a mild inflammation inside the bladder. This irritation makes the bladder muscle itself more twitchy, more prone to contracting suddenly, which leads to, more frequent trips to the bathroom, more urgency, and often with less warning time.
So the very thing we're trying to stop constantly running to the loo is actually made worse by not drinking enough.
Yeah.
That is so counterintuitive.
It really is. And doctors, they often see dehydration as definitely a contributing factor to bladder issues in older women. The key is steady, consistent hydration. Sipping smaller amounts regularly through the day rather than, say, chugging a big glass infrequently, that helps keep the urine concentration balanced and the bladder much calmer.
And I guess the timing of those sips matters too, right?
Right.
Not just how much.
Oh, absolutely. A really good strategy is to focus on getting most of your fluids in earlier in the day,
Okay.
morning, afternoon, then gradually taper off in the evening. This helps you stay hydrated during the day, but avoids overloading your bladder right when you're trying to sleep.
That makes a lot of sense. Avoid those nighttime trips. Okay, let's shift gears. Something many of us, rely on to get going in the morning. Coffee or tea. Overdoing the caffeine, apparently, is another no-no for bladder control.
Yes, caffeine definitely has a noticeable impact. It kind of hits the bladder in 2 ways, a sort of double whammy.
Oh.
First, it acts as a direct stimulant on the bladder muscle itself, makes it more sensitive, more twitchy, I guess, increases the chance of sudden contractions.
The more sensitive bladder. Not ideal.
Not what we want, no. And second, caffeine is a diuretic.
Right, makes you produce more urine.
Exactly. It tells your kidneys to make more urine. So now you've got more urine being produced, and your bladder is more reactive at the same time.
It sounds like a perfect storm for sudden urges and leaks.
It really can be. Now, the advice isn't usually to, cut out caffeine completely, especially if it's something you genuinely enjoy.
Okay.
Moderation is really the key. Maybe limiting yourself to just one, maybe smaller cup or mug in the morning, and then switching over to decaf options or maybe herbal teas later in the day. That simple switch could make a really noticeable difference in your control. It's just about finding that balance that works for you.
Small adjustments. Big difference. I like that. Okay, let's move to something often recommended, but maybe doesn't always get the consistent attention it deserves. Pelvic floor exercises. Kegels.
That's right. And there's this common idea, or a misconception really, that these exercises are mainly for, younger women, maybe after childbirth.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But the pelvic floor muscles, they support the bladder, the uterus, the bowels. They are absolutely vital throughout life. As we age, and especially after menopause, when hormone levels shift, these muscles can naturally lose some strength, some tone.
And that weakening, that's what leads to those leaks when we, say, laugh hard or cough or even just sneeze.
Exactly. When those support structures aren't as strong, they're less effective at preventing that little bit of urine escaping during moments of increased pressure in the abdomen.
Right.
But the good news, the really good news, is that these muscles, just like any other muscle in your body, can be strengthened. You can train them with targeted exercise no matter how old you are.
So it's genuinely never too late to start doing Kegels.
Absolutely not. The exercises themselves, they just involve consciously, tightening and then releasing these specific muscles. It's quite subtle. You don't need any special equipment, and you can do them really discreetly, pretty much anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, I've heard you can do them waiting in line at the shop or watching TV even.
That's the beauty of them. They're easy to weave into your daily routine. And doing them consistently, well, it can lead to less urgency, fewer of those surprise leaks, and just a much greater sense of control and confidence.
That's really encouraging to hear. Okay, now for something that might feel like an easy fix, a convenient solution, but actually isn't getting to the root of the problem, just relying on absorbent pads.
Right. Pads definitely offer a practical way to manage leaks day to day. They can give you a real sense of security, which is important.
Sure.
However, it's really crucial to see them as just that, a management tool, not a long-term fix for whatever is actually causing the leaks.
It's a bit like putting a bucket under a leaky roof instead of fixing the hole, isn't it?
That is a perfect analogy. Yes, the pad catches the drips, but it does absolutely nothing to address why the roof is leaking.
Right.
And relying only on pads, well, it can mean you inadvertently ignore potential warning signs. Signs of a weakening bladder, maybe, or even other underlying medical issues.
And identifying those underlying causes is really important, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. What seems like simple stress leaks could potentially be linked to nerve issues or hormonal changes, maybe even a low-grade urinary tract infection that needs treating. By only using pads, you might miss the chance for earlier intervention. And earlier treatment often leads to much more effective management, better outcomes in the long run.
So pads are helpful for peace of mind, okay? But they shouldn't be the only strategy. Getting to the why behind the leaks is key.
Precisely. There's absolutely no shame in using pads when you need them, of course not. But taking proactive steps to figure out the cause and improve your bladder health, that's essential.
Got it. Okay, let's talk about a habit with, well, huge overall health implications.
Yeah.
Smoking. We all know it's bad for us in so many ways, but how does it specifically connect to bladder leaks?
Yeah, smoking is a really significant risk factor for urinary incontinence. It works through several different kind of interconnected ways.
Okay.
The first is the chronic cough, that smoker's cough, that often comes with smoking. It puts repeated, quite considerable pressure on the bladder over and over again.
Yeah, all that forceful coughing, you can almost feel how that would strain things down there.
Exactly. And over years, this repeated pressure can significantly weaken the pelvic floor muscles, makes them less effective at their job, supporting the bladder, preventing leaks.
Makes sense.
But there's more. The chemicals in cigarette smoke also damage blood vessels everywhere in the body. That includes the tiny vessels supplying the pelvic tissues. Less blood flow means less oxygen, which makes these tissues less elastic, less resilient, and slower to repair themselves.
And I think I remember hearing something about hormones, too. Is there a link there?
Yes, there is. Smoking can interfere with estrogen levels, and estrogen plays a really important role in maintaining the health and elasticity of bladder tissues, especially for women after menopause.
Right.
But, and this is really important, it's crucial to remember that quitting smoking at any age brings massive health benefits. And many women do report improvements in their bladder control after they start. It's genuinely never too late to make that positive change.
That's such a powerful message, and hopeful, too. Okay, now let's think about a relaxing evening ritual that might, well, unintentionally be sabotaging bladder control.
Yeah.
Having a drink right before heading off to bed.
Ah, yes, the nightcap. It's such a common way to wind down, isn't it? But drinking a significant amount of fluid too close to bedtime can definitely pose challenges for bladder control, particularly as we get older.
Oh, so.
Well, a few things happen. The way our bodies process fluids changes a bit with age. The bladder itself can become more sensitive at night. And generally, our ability to comfortably hold urine while we're asleep tends to decrease.
So that late-night tea or glass of water could mean more trips to the bathroom overnight or even accidents.
Exactly. So simply adjusting the timing of when you have your evening drinks can make a really noticeable difference. Try to finish most of your fluids maybe a couple of hours before you plan to sleep, say around 7 p.m. perhaps. If you do feel thirsty later on, just take small sips. Don't down a whole large glass. This little shift can really contribute to more restful, uninterrupted sleep and fewer nighttime bladder worries.
Better sleep, fewer surprises. Sounds like a very worthwhile adjustment indeed. Okay, finally, let's tackle what might honestly be the biggest hurdle for many women needing help. Just feeling embarrassed about bladder leaks.
This is such a critical point. Embarrassment can be a huge, huge barrier. It stops people from seeking the help and the solutions that are actually out there.
Yeah.
And it's totally understandable why it feels like such a personal, sensitive issue. But it's just so important to remember that doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, they are very experienced in dealing with these concerns. They approach it with compassion, with expertise.
So that feeling embarrassed, it actually stops women finding relief sometimes.
Absolutely. You could almost say that embarrassment is the real enemy here, the real obstacle. By avoiding that conversation with a doctor, women might miss out on really effective treatments, simple management strategies. Doctors look at the whole picture, They consider hormones, nerve function, maybe medications you're taking, hydration habits, muscle strength, all sorts of factors to understand the root cause.
And it's not just something women have to put up with, like an inevitable part of getting older. There are often real solutions.
Oh, absolutely not inevitable. In so many cases, the problem can be significantly improved, sometimes even resolved completely.
Really?
Yes. Simple things like adjusting a medication that might be contributing or treating an underlying condition like, say, a mild pelvic organ prolapse can make a massive difference.
Wow.
And then there are specialized resources too, like pelvic floor physical therapists, dietary advice, bladder retraining programs, different medications. But you won't know what options might work for you until you start that conversation.
It really sounds like taking that first step, just talking to your doctor, is the most important thing you can do.
It truly is. Prioritizing your own well-being, getting past that initial understandable feeling of embarrassment, it can genuinely lead to significant improvements in your quality of life, your confidence, your overall health.
Okay, so just to quickly recap the main takeaways then.
Yeah.
We've talked about not ignoring the urge, right? And staying properly hydrated, but maybe not right before bed. Being mindful of caffeine. Doing those pelvic floor exercises consistently. Not just relying on pads, seeing them as a tool, not the whole solution. Avoiding smoking, definitely.
Right.
Adjusting when you drink fluids in the evening. And maybe the biggest one, not letting embarrassment stop you from talking to your doctor.
Those are really the core daily habits that medical professionals often flag for senior women. All things that support and help maintain good bladder health.
If you found this deep dive insightful and you want to stay informed about, important aspects of your health, please do give this a like and definitely subscribe to the Wisdom.cs channel.
Yeah, please do.
Staying proactive, staying informed, it really is key to taking control of your well-being. So go on, hit that subscribe button, maybe leave us a comment. We genuinely love to hear your thoughts.